My name is Richard Hale. I was 68 when I learned you can be politely asked not to exist. It was Father's Day, Sunday, June 16th, 2025, and I had a reservation for 3 at Maple and Main, that diner on Main Street where Megan used to eat blueberry pancakes and smear her chin when she was 7. I got there a little before 11, ordered a black coffee, and set her silverware against the plate like I was saving her a seat in my memory. Just after 11, my phone buzzed. Dad, we changed plans. Ryan wants to spend it with his dad at the lake. I promise we'll set something up next week. Love you. The waitress gathered the 3rd set of silverware with the delicacy of a nurse lifting a bandage, looked at me with pity she barely hid. And I, out of reflex, smiled. I paid the bill, left 20% because she didn't deserve to split the check with my loneliness, and walked under the June sun, reminding myself the shade will burn you too. Think I'm exaggerating? If you've ever been traded for someone else's family calendar, give me 90 seconds. I'll tell you how I went home and, instead of yelling, pulled a yellow notebook from the drawer and added up numbers that sting. 25 grand, 55,000, 1,200 a month, 18,000, 146 and change for the phones. And at the end I wrote, enough. 3 weeks later, on July 3rd, I signed the document that flipped the board. I rewrote my will, moved everything into a trust, created a scholarship in Laura's name, protected my granddaughter Sophie, and left the Carters nothing. 0 for them, I said quietly, measuring each syllable. I didn't know then that the first reaction wouldn't be theirs, but the town's, when the Cincinnati Enquirer ran a little piece about Laura's scholarship. This isn't payback, it's consequence. I live in Hyde Park, Cincinnati, in a low red brick house from the 40s. The porch has 2 wicker chairs that creak when the wind hits, and that's where a lot began and ended. Laura, my wife, passed in 2018, and the porch became church and confessional. I talk, the wind answers, and the house listens. Megan learned to walk out there, wobbly legs, diaper swinging, and laughed like someone who doesn't yet know the weight of a fall. I thought the porch could cure everything. Laura used to say, family is a table, not a pedestal. A table holds weight. A pedestal makes you fall. Megan married Ryan Carter 5 years back. He's a financial analyst in Upper Arlington near Columbus. The Carter family is organized in a way that makes noise. They've got a spreadsheet for the cookout, a dress code for Sunday, a perfect photo for every holiday, all in the same palette. Thomas, Ryan's father, sizes you up by your watch and your handshake. His always 2 seconds longer than it needs to be. Linda, Ryan's mother, smiles with every tooth and always has a take on that before you've even opened your mouth. I didn't hate them. I don't have that talent. I just felt out of place, like the extra fork when they're serving soup. I did what a dad does when his daughter starts a new life. I paid for the wedding. 25 grand, every cent a tribute to Laura, who always said the first step into adulthood deserves a red carpet and good music. I helped with the down payment on their place in Grandview Heights. 55,000 I'd been tucking away since the early 90s. 50 here, 75 there, like watering a seed you can't see yet. I co-signed the mortgage so they'd get better rates, and for a couple of years, set up $1,200 a month on auto pay. Didn't hurt, it was intention. I put Megan and Ryan on my cell plan. The bill came labeled Hale Family Plan, $146 and change each month. And I liked seeing the family name together, silly of me. Paid her car insurance for a while, and opened a 529 for my granddaughter Sophie with $18,000 to start. I always believed respect came bundled with help. It wasn't begging, it was a quiet deal. I give you structure, you give me a place. The first jolt hit on Thanksgiving of 2024. I stopped at Kroger, picked up pumpkin for the pie Laura used to make, let the dough rest in the fridge while I watched the Lions on TV. A little after 10 that morning, Megan called. She talked fast, tripping over words. Dad, my mother-in-law set everything up in Upper Arlington. Everyone's going. Her place is already decorated, you know. Better not mix it this year. We'll swing by Sunday, okay? Love you. Better not mix kept echoing in Laura's picture frame like a crooked nail. I baked the pie anyway. On Sunday, nobody came. I ate a big slice with cold coffee and froze the rest. In December came the Christmas version. The Carter's tradition is in Dublin. It's everyone. They already claimed Grandpa. What did that make me then? An extra whose line got cut in the final edit? I started seeing signs where I used to see family. Once at a Sunday lunch, Linda called me Rick 3 times and Richard every time she wanted to correct me. Another time, Thomas advised me to upgrade my watch, older model, Mr. Hale, and taught me how not to ruin the photo by standing on the end. In the WhatsApp group Carter Calendar, yes, they added me for 6 days by mistake, I saw holidays were color-coded: navy for Dublin with the Carters, green for Upper Arlington Lake House, gray for outside events. My name didn't show up in any color. I went gray. Micro-humiliation is the small nail that scratches the wood every time the door slams. Once I showed up in Grandview Heights with a bag of trash bags. Yes, that's a thing. Because they'd complained they were always out for recycling. Linda looked at my bag and said, "How thrifty," and laughed. Another time I parked out front and Thomas asked me to avoid the neighbor's spot. He's sensitive. Like I was a teenager without a license. There was Sophie's baptism, which I discovered through an Instagram photo. Family first, Linda's caption. My finger showing up in the left corner like a smudge. The money didn't hurt because it was money. It hurt because of the message stapled to it. The tally for the last 2 years was a paragraph that wouldn't fit in my pocket. $1,200 a month for 2 years. Just under 29 grand. 55,000 for the down payment. 25 grand for the wedding. 18,000 into the 529. About 146 and change a month for the phones for a little over a year and a half. Close to 2,800. A little over 600 for car insurance when Ryan bumped the CRV into a low post and the deductible jumped. About $85 for streaming that hit my card because it was an accident, Dad. Just under 300 on a German coffee maker Megan wanted, and I bought without blinking. First married Christmas gift that showed up at their garage sale the next year. Like new. I don't hold grudges against objects. I just noticed the sum was saying, "You're useful when you're useful." The last drop spilled on Father's Day, when Jason across the state turned into "Ryan wants the lake," and I turned into "next week." I went home just after noon, pulled the yellow notebook from the drawer, sat at the kitchen table where Laura taught Megan to make French toast and made a list. In big letters I wrote, "Help" and "silences." I listed everything I paid on the left and everything I swallowed on the right. Missed holidays, last-minute excuses. They already claimed Grandpa. Photos without me. Under both columns, like the footer of a contract, I wrote a line Laura would have said exactly like this: "You don't buy a place at the table. It's given or taken away." I was going to turn off the checks. Maybe then someone would take their foot off my neck. Monday, a little after 7 in the morning, I called the law firm my bowling buddy Earl always raves about, Layton and Brackett on Walnut Street. The name that stuck was Kara Layton, an estate's attorney with round glasses and patience that felt bought in bulk. Tuesday, July 1st, around 9:30, I sat in a glassed-in room with a view of the Roebling Bridge. My palm was sweating into the chair arm. I told it calmly, like handing an old piece of furniture to someone who knows how to care for it. Laura, Megan, the Carters, the numbers, and the hollow. "You want to disinherit your daughter?" Kara was direct. "I want to stop funding disrespect," I said. "I want to protect Sophie without handing a cent for Ryan to control, and when I'm gone, I don't want this turning into a circus." Kara opened a blue folder, pulled out a pad, and started sketching with words. Revocable Living Trust, the Hale Family Trust. A pour-over will to sweep whatever's left into the trust. An in terrorem clause, the no contest bit, for anyone who threatens to fight. Transfer on death affidavit to move the house into the trust. Ohio allows it. Payable on death beneficiaries on your account straight to the trust, not to people. Replace you as the 529 owner with a trusted successor, maybe your sister Claire. An independent trustee for Sophie's share. Our office with an annual report. Rules for Sophie, education, health, housing. Available starting at $25 with exceptions for need. And a letter of intent. Not law, but a moral compass. As she talked, the knot that lived between my chest and my throat slid down a notch. "And Megan and Ryan?" Kara asked. "Zero," I said. It wasn't anger. It was a boundary. On July 3rd, a little after 2 in the afternoon, I signed every page. The blue Parker pen Laura gave me for our 25th ran a little hot on one paragraph and left a smudge I wiped with my finger the way I used to on Megan's school notes. The Hale Family Trust got a backbone, 60% of what I own to a fund in Sophie's name, managed by an independent trustee with the limited uses we agreed. 30% to the Laura Hale Memorial Scholarship at the University of Cincinnati, College of Nursing for first-generation women. Laura was a nurse and always came home exhausted and happy. The last 10% to VFW Post 10380 out in Newtown, where I learned to shut up and listen when the world wanted everybody yelling. That same afternoon, I changed beneficiaries on my bank accounts. Savings, checking, the CD, a certificate of deposit that matures in November, everything payable on death to the trust. At the bank app, I killed the $1,200 auto pay on their mortgage. I called the carrier and took Megan and Ryan off my cell plan. "Are you sure, Mr. Hale?" "I am. You'll lose a discount. I'll gain a spine." That night, just after 8, I logged into the insurer's site and took her car off my policy. It was like flipping switches in a house that had been blazing for too long. Kara suggested I communicate clearly, without theatrics. "They'll react. Be ready." I set a dinner at Eli's BBQ on Riverside because good ribs should be medicine, and because Laura used to say family fights call for paper napkins, not linen. Friday, around 7:15, they rolled in 15 minutes late. Ryan's shoes shone hard enough to reflect the bridge. Megan looked beautiful and tired. I had a manila envelope on my lap with 2 things: a letter from me and a plain English summary of the trust. I set the envelope on the table while the waitress was still taking our order. "Dad, what's with the face?" Megan went straight at it, like her mother. "It's the face of someone who's done waiting on the bench." I tried to smile. "I'm going to talk, and you'll listen to the end. Then you can react." I told them about Father's Day, Thanksgiving, Christmas. I told them about they already claimed Grandpa, the Carter calendar group, the way a seat disappears, the money that doesn't buy a chair. I didn't dramatize. I didn't sugarcoat either. I slid the envelope over. Ryan watched my hand like he was evaluating a bad investment. "I rewrote my will," I said. "Better. I took almost everything out of the will and put it in a trust. Sophie's protected. Your mother's name becomes a scholarship for a girl who never had a Laura in her corner. The VFW stays a home for people who know the weight of coming back. Megan, you and Ryan aren't included. Starting tomorrow, I'm done with the mortgage help, the phone plan, and anything that confuses me with a bank. I love you. That's why I won't pay for your absence." Ryan's little laugh nicked the rim of the glass. "This is manipulation, Mr. Hale. We're adults." "Boundary," I corrected. "Manipulation is inviting me only when there's a hole in the Carter calendar." Megan flushed, then went pale. She opened the envelope with trembling fingers, read 2 lines, and closed her eyes. "You can't do this," she whispered. It sounded more like a plea than a threat. "I can." And I did. The argument rose half a step at a time. Ryan said, "Nuclear family, couples' priorities, and autonomy." I said, "Respect the one who raised you." The ribs went cold on the table. The urge to pound my fist warmed in my gut, and I held it. When the noise turned silly, Megan stood up. The tears she'd been holding fell all at once. She said, "You're punishing me." And I said, "No, I'm protecting me." They left. I stayed. I ordered a slice of pecan pie that had no taste. I paid and kept the receipt in my pocket because I've learned everything becomes evidence once someone starts calling you the bad guy. Little did I know the counterattack would start a little before 7 the next morning, when the first call came through. Saturday woke up with the phone weaving a net. First Megan, then Linda, then Thomas. "How dare you? This will destroy the family. A real man wouldn't do this. Let's talk like adults. You'll regret it." I didn't answer. By a little after 9, I had close to 20 missed calls. Just past 10, a ping on my phone from their bank. Heads up, auto-pay didn't go through. Around 10:30, a text from Ryan. This has legal consequences. I replied, I have a lawyer. A little past 11, a screenshot from the Dublin community group. Yes, Linda posted. Sad when parents choose money over family. Prayers for those who've lost their way. Donna, there's always a Donna, commented with a broken heart and something like bitter old men. My throat tightened. I breathed and called Kara. She gave me 3 lines. Don't answer there. Document. We'll tell our story the right way. On Monday, July 7th, a little after 2 in the afternoon, the University of Cincinnati's communications office called. The donation committee had the paperwork for the Laura Hale Memorial Scholarship and was putting together a little piece for the website. I said yes. By a little after 9 on Tuesday, it was live. New scholarship honors Cincinnati nurse, supports first-generation women. The photo was a stethoscope draped over an empty frame, pretty in a silly way. Around 10:30, the Cincinnati Enquirer picked it up and ran a short, "Widower creates scholarship in memory of wife. Priority to nursing students." Laura always hated the spotlight. She would have hated this, but she would have understood the usefulness. The Dublin group swallowed hard. Linda's post shrank. No retraction, no one apologizes there, but the comments cooled. Janice from the VFW wrote, I know Rick. He shows up when people need him. The rest is gossip. Someone replied with a GIF. I closed the app. Life doesn't happen in there. In the real world, the doorbell rang mid-afternoon Sunday. The ring caught it. I opened it knowing hot wind was coming. Ryan spoke first, standing like he'd presented PowerPoints all morning. Either you turn the mortgage payments and the inheritance back on, or Sophie doesn't set foot here again. Either. Turn back on, or... So many conditional doors. Behind him, Megan, eyes puffy, didn't interrupt. That hurt more than any midnight call. You just tried to turn my granddaughter into currency, I said. I love Sophie. My door is open to anyone who knocks with respect. Blackmail closes it. I'm not competing for fatherhood with Thomas, but I'm not paying admission to see my own family. I closed the door. I cried in the kitchen. I knew where the dish towel lived without looking. Habits of living alone turn into a house map. I called Kara and reported the threat in short sentences. She calmed me. Keep documenting. If it turns into interference with visitation, there's a judge somewhere who hates that. That night I went to the VFW, threw darts, kept quiet. I heard stories that rhymed. In-laws who fill whole pages in other people's life calendars, and parents bumped to the B option at the emotional buffet. Underneath, a lot of us have the same play with different actors. The week rolled on, and the bills fell like dominoes. Their bank tagged on late fees. Their credit took a hit. On Wednesday, July 31st, just after 7 in the evening, the phone rang with a voice I hadn't heard in a while. Megan's, without the hallway echo. She asked if she could come by. I said yes. Just before 8, she arrived with a Holtman's bag. Boston cream, Laura's favorite. I brought donuts. Do you still like Boston cream? Her voice sounded 8 and 32 at the same time. We ate in silence in the kitchen where Laura once floated Megan's sticker off a page with water and sun. Then she talked. No script, no Carter handbook. Ryan's mom has a family WhatsApp with a color for each house. It sounds silly, but there's no space for anything that isn't Carter. The night of the dinner when we left, she said, "Now he learns." I repeated it 2 days later. Sophie asked where you were on Sunday, and I said, with other friends. I heard myself, and it scared me. I was pasting my life into an album that didn't have you in it. I was wrong. I took your help and treated you like optional, and I didn't set the boundary with Ryan that I should have set. I'm sorry, Dad. When someone apologizes for real, the house changes its sound. I didn't turn into a saint. I said I was hurt. I said this wasn't revenge. It was a boundary. I said I'd keep the trust as is for now because big decisions need time. I said I wouldn't use money to buy presents, and if she wanted to start over, I had one condition. respect. And one rule, neither Sophie nor my front door gets turned into currency. Saturday at Alt Park, a little after 10 in the morning, Sophie ran to me with those thin arms that tie into a bow around your neck. She had bubbles in her pocket, an old habit of mine. Ryan came along, 2 steps back, the body of a man who learned to do math fast and feeling slow. He sat, cleared his throat. "I was an idiot, Mr. Hale. I treated your support like it was owed. My family has this way of acting like ours is always better. That's not an excuse. I came to apologize. I don't have the right to cut you out of dates or to expect you to pay for anything. I'll sort out the mortgage. We'll get ourselves together. Could you think about revisiting things someday?" I looked at the lake. The sun's reflection always looks bigger on the water than in the sky. Laura used to say still things throw back more light than fast ones. I turned to Ryan. I can think about it. More than that, I can watch, and I can forgive, with a boundary. I'm not undoing what I wrote, not for now. Laura's scholarship is my way of leaving the world better than I found it. Sophie's share stays as is. If our relationship holds solid over the next few years, I'll revisit. Don't spend energy trying to convince me. Spend it on respecting me. He nodded. Sophie yelled, "Grandpa, look," and popped 3 bubbles in the air. The third drifted the farthest. I wished it was ours. Life didn't turn into a bank commercial. The Carter calendar didn't vanish. Thomas still holds a handshake a beat too long, and when he saw me at Sophie's birthday said, "Nice scholarship idea," with a look that tried to be a compliment and almost was an audit. Linda still lines us up by height and puts me on the ends. I don't argue about spots in photos. I take care of my spot in the story. I did 2 things Laura would approve of. First, I wrote a letter and tucked it in a blue folder labeled, "If I Go First." In it, I explained, with the same calm I used at Eli's, why I took Megan out of the will and moved everything into the trust. It wasn't punishment. It was protecting the dynamic. I explained the scholarship, the VFW, Sophie's share, the no contest clause. I even wrote, "If you're reading this, it means I chose a different kind of courage." Second, I bought a new pot of hydrangeas like the one at our first house and set it on the porch. They don't solve anything. They just remind me living things need water, time, and sun. So do we. I started showing up at the VFW more on Thursdays, got into darts, learned a silly little trick from Earl to hit more often. Don't aim at the whole target. Aim inside the red, just 1 dot. I tried that in life. Don't fix the whole family. Just a weekly coffee with Megan. Don't correct all of Ryan. Just ask him to stop using Sophie as the final sentence. Don't expect a perfect Christmas. Just a Sunday with donuts and no nerves. Late August, the university invited me to meet the first cohort applying for Laura's scholarship. I sat in the back and listened to a 19-year-old talk about wanting to be a nurse because hers held her grandmother's hand to the last minute. I saw Laura in that goofy move of pinning her hair with a pencil. I signed an extra check for about $5,000 and walked out with my heart light in a sad, good way. On the way home, I stopped at Great American Ballpark, bought a hot dog, and dripped mustard on my shirt. I laughed, alone. I'd relearned how to laugh without an audience. Megan comes by more. Sometimes she brings Sophie, who draws with chalk on the porch. Sometimes she comes alone and sits in the creaky wicker with her phone face down. We talk about Laura, sing a bit of Stand By Me, she danced to back in '83, and laugh when I botch the words. I say the trust stays as is, and she says, "I know." Once she asked if I'd ever think about leaving something to her. I breathed and said maybe, if something comes after many years of respect. She nodded. It wasn't a bargain. It was a road sign sentence. Some people call me cruel. Say disinheriting your kid is a modern sin. I didn't disinherit a person. I disinherited a dynamic. If someone wants to read hate where I wrote boundary, let them. I sleep. I wake. I make coffee and listen to the house creak. I talk to Laura sometimes, looking at the hydrangea. I say, "I gave your name to something that will keep going." And she answers the way the wind does, by passing through and staying. If someone asks me why 0 for them, I say it the way a paramedic and a soldier learn to speak. Clear, short, no ornament. Because love without respect is a check that bounces. Because inheritance is the last lesson, not a reward for selective presence. Because I had to protect Sophie and honor Laura, and to do that I had to pull myself out of a chair I was paying for and never got to sit in. I don't know the future. I know this. When you write enough on letterhead and sign it with courage, sometimes someone on the other side reads, "Let's begin again." And if they don't, at least you raise a glass of iced tea on the porch at day's end knowing you paid the right bill, the one called self-respect. In the last light of a Sunday, Megan asked me for Boston cream donuts. I laughed. The porch creaked, the hydrangea breathed, and Sophie, with a torn stub of blue chalk, wrote on the uneven concrete, "Grandpa." Sometimes the world's ink dries on the spot. The rest is choosing not to step on it. I rewrote the will. 0 for them. And for the first time in a long time, nothing was missing where it mattered. Me, in my place, whole. Subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts about the story in the comments. See you in the next one.